Good morning, students. Welcome to the Department of Collegiate and Technical Education. My name is Mohinuddin. I am working as a lecturer in Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department at Government Polytechnic, Ballari. Today, I am here to discuss on the course of electrical power generation from unit 1, that is hydroelectric and thermal power plants. The topic of this today's session is thermal power plant, also called steam power plant. Let's start the session. The contents of this today's session are introduction, environmental impact of thermal power plants, some test assessment. After the end of this session, we will have some test assessment for assessing ourselves how the students are understand this session. Let's start the session. First, introduction. Before starting to today's session, I would like to recap the previous session, what we have studied in the previous sessions. In the previous sessions, you have already studied about thermal power plants, working of thermal power plants, advantages and disadvantages of thermal power plants. These are all you have studied in the previous class. Now we will look on to the basic working of thermal power plant, that is producing electricity from coal. This we have already studied in the previous session. Just I will recap the previous class. That is, how does it work, thermal power plant. Here this is the block diagram. The figure shows the block diagram, how the thermal power plant works. Here the thermal power plant, in thermal power plant, the coal is the main fuel required for the power generation. That coal is pulverized. That pulverized coal is converted into electricity through the Rankine cycle. The various steps for producing electricity from coal are: the coal is burnt in the furnace, that is boiler. Second, after burning the coal in a boiler, the heat is generated. That whatever the heat is produced when the coal is burned in a boiler furnace, that heat is used to convert the water into steam. The water turns into pressurized steam which exits the furnace. Next, the steam turns the blades of a turbine. The turbine will rotate, and that rotates the alternator, and electricity is produced. Again, after the steam is exhausted from the turbine, that steam is condensed in a condenser, and again that is cooled and returned to the furnace to repeat the cycle. This cycle we call it as a Rankine cycle. This cycle repeats again and again. This is the basic block diagram of how the electricity is produced from coal. Next I will move on to some environmental issues or environmental impacts of thermal power plants. The power generation units are called the mega projects. Here whatever the power generation stations or units, they are large projects and they require large huge capital investment. Because of their mega projects, they require huge capital investment, and due to that they require a large quantity of fuel for the energy production. Okay, they require natural resources like fossil fuels. Okay, in thermal power plants, the fuel required is a fossil fuel, that is called a coal. Okay, they require natural resources like fossil fuels, and also these thermal power plants requires a large amount of water. Large amount of water is also required in thermal power plants to condense the water, to condense the steam in a condenser. A large amount of water is also required, and due to these that is a large quantity of resources are also required, and a large amount of water is also required. That changes the local ecosystem. There is a change in the local ecosystems due to the use of large natural resources and a large amount of water. Due to that changes in the local ecosystem, these power plants, that is thermal power plants, will impact on the environment and also the health. This is the environmental issues from the thermal power plants. Now we will see what are the environmental impact of thermal power plants. How does the thermal power plants will create a negative impact on the environment? Let's see the environmental impact of thermal power plants. The main causes is the air pollution. Due to the burning of a large quantity of fossil fuels, that is coal, in a boiler, a large amount of gases are liberated, that is air is get polluted, air pollution. That air pollution is subdivided into stack emissions, cooling tower emissions. The major pollution in thermal power plants is the air pollution. The air will get polluted due to the combustion of fossil fuels in a boiler. That air pollution is divided into stack emissions, cooling tower emissions. Now we will see one by one. Stack emissions. What is stack emissions means? Whatever the gases are substances which are emitted from the stack of a power plant, we call it as a stack emissions. ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್, ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಚಿಮ್ನಿ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಚಿಮ್ನಿ ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಚಿಮ್ನಿಯಿಂದ ಏನು ಗ್ಯಾಸಸ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರ್ತವೆ and also various substances, that we call it as a stack emissions. Stack emissions, they will emit number of harmful substances through stack. It is also called as a chimney. Stack is also, we call it as, generally we call it as a chimney. Those, the type of the harmful substances emitted through the stack of the power plant are sulfur dioxide, particulates, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, etc. These are the various the harmful substances which are emitted from the stack of a power plant. Out of these substances, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide and particulates cause maximum pollution. ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ನು ಈ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದರಿಂದ ಇರುತ್ತೆ? ಸಲ್ಫರ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್, ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ಸ್. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕಾಸ್ ದಿ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ನು ಈ ಮೂರು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಇಂದ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ when compared to other substances. These pollutants are emitted through power plant stacks along with flue gases, which cause deterioration to human health, damage to vegetation, structural finishes and poor visibility. Means, what are the pollutants emitted through the stack of these power plants will affect on the health of a human. They will decrease the deterioration to human health. The human health will get decreases, damage to the human health, and also these pollutants also damage to vegetation. Vegetation means the plants. That pollutants which are emitted along with the flue gases, they also cause damage to vegetation. Vegetation ಅಂದ್ರೆ plants ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಆ pollutants ಇಂದ ಡ್ಯಾಮೇಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. And also they will cause, it will affect the health of a human, and also structural finishes and poor visibility. Means it will also affect the structural finishes. Structural finishes, whatever the structures or buildings, monuments which are surrounding the power plant, that is also get affected by these pollutants. And also poor visibility. Poor visibility andre the visibility in that area surrounding the power plant is decreases. That is called the poor visibility. These are all called the stack emissions, the pollutants which are emitted from the stack of a power plant. Next, I will move on to some impacts of various harmful substances. So far we have studied the stack of the power plant will emit harmful substances due to the burning of coal in a boiler. Those may be either sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon dioxide, particulates. Among these, we will see what are the impacts of each substances to the environment. Under that, sulfur dioxide impacts. The sulfur dioxides which are emitted from the stack of the power plant, these sulfur dioxides are related to irritation to respiratory. The effect becomes more when particulates are also present. The sulfur dioxide emission from the stack of the power plant will cause irritation to respiratory. Respiratory related problems will occur due to the emission of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. The effect is more when sulfur dioxide, when particulates are also present in the sulfur dioxide. Therefore, the sulfur dioxide is mainly affect the respiratory system. And also the other cause, in the presence of water, sulfur dioxide forms sulfuric acid and causes acid rain. The acid rain is caused when sulfur dioxide in the presence of water forms sulfuric acid and causes acid rain, leading to destruction of ecosystems. The ecosystems will get damaged due to the cause of acid rain. How the acid rains are caused? Acid rains ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಕೇಳಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಮ್ಲ ಮಳೆ ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಆಮ್ಲ ಮಳೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ, this sulfur dioxide in the presence of water ಜೊತೆಗೆ sulfur dioxide ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ it forms a sulfuric acid. Due to the formation of sulfuric acid causes acid rain. Due to that acid rain will leads to destruction of ecosystems. Therefore, ecosystems will get damaged due to the cause of acid rain. Acid rain mainly caused due to sulfur dioxide emissions. The second impact of the sulfur dioxide is the presence of sulfur dioxide in air also increases the corrosion rate of steel. Presence of sulfur dioxide in air ಜೊತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ sulfur dioxide mix ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ, that also increases the corrosion rate of steel. The steel get corroded. Corrosion of the steel is more when the sulfur dioxide is mixed with air. These are the main impacts of sulfur dioxide. First impact is when sulfur dioxide is along with the water forms sulfuric acid and causes acid rain. That acid rain will cause the destruction of ecosystems. And second, presence of sulfur dioxide in air also increases the corrosion rate of steel. These are the impacts of sulfur dioxide to the environment. Next, nitrogen oxide impacts. What are the impacts of nitrogen oxide to the atmosphere? Nitrogen oxide, we can call it as a strong irritant. Okay, this is also a hazardous pollutant creating visual and respiratory problems. It is also a hazardous pollutant. Andre idu it is a toxic materials antivalla ನಾವು. Hazardous andre it affects the human health. Okay, it is also nitrogen oxide is also a hazardous pollutant which is emitted from the stack of the power plant, and it create the visual and respiratory problems. It is also nitrogen oxide also will impact on the visual and respiratory problems. So respiratory problems are also caused due to the impact of nitrogen oxides. Visual and respiratory problems are the main impacts of nitrogen oxides. Second effect of the nitrogen oxide to the atmosphere is when nitrogen oxide reacts with water, aquatic organisms are damaged. Here the second is also impact to the water bodies. Aquatic organisms. Aquatic organisms means water bodies ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ, ನೀರಿನಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಜೀವಿಗಳು, ಅದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಡ್ಯಾಮೇಜ್. ಅವು ಡ್ಯಾಮೇಜ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ವೆನ್ ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ವಾಟರ್. ವಾಟರ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ, ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ, ಅವಾಗ ದಟ್ causes aquatic organisms are also damaged. This is also another impact of the nitrogen oxide to the environment. And also the vegetation damage is also caused from the nitrogen oxide due to high concentration of nitrogen oxide in atmosphere. When the concentration of the nitrogen oxide in the atmosphere is more, andre nitrogen oxide concentration atmosphere alli ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ that also causes vegetation damage. Vegetation damage means that also damages the plants. Vegetation means plants. Therefore these are the main impacts of nitrogen oxides. Next we will move on to airborne particulates. Airborne particulates. What are airborne particulates? Particulates means the particulates are the fine substances which are carried through air, and those substances remains in the atmosphere, that we call it as a particulates. Particulates, we can call it, we can say particulates are the mixture of solid portion and liquid droplets. They are found in air. They are found in air. Air alli irtave. Those are called the mixture of solid portion and liquid droplets. They are, we can also call the particulates as droplets. They are found in air. Therefore they are called the airborne particulates. Means those particulates are carried through air. Air particulates na carry ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ. Those are called the we call it as a particulates ಅಂತೀವಿ. Those are called the particulates. Here these particulates will occurs. ಯಾವ ಥರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ particulates ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ, ಯಾಕೆ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಡ್ಯೂ ಟು ದಿ ಕಂಬಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೋಲ್ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಎ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಕ್ವಾಂಟಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಆಶ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ we will see in the thermal power plants, due to the combustion of coal, that results in production of an enormous quantity of ash. Ash is produced due to the combustion of coal. That ash, we can say, essentially consists of bottom ash and fly ash. ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಆಶ್ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಕೋಲ್ನ ಬರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಥರ್ಮಲ್ ಪವರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಆ್ಯಶ್ನ ನಾವು ಎರಡು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಾಟಮ್ ಆ್ಯಶ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿ ಫ್ಲೈ ಆ್ಯಶ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ದ ಫ್ಲೈ ಆ್ಯಶ್ particles in the form of suspension in the flue gas comes out from the plant. A fly ash in the form of suspension in the flue gas comes out of plant. The fly ash antivi, those fly ash will comes out of the plant in the ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರ್ತವೆ and contribute to an increased suspended particulate matter. We call it as the suspended particulate matters, andre SPM. We call it as a SPM. Okay, those the fly ash particles in the form of suspension means those fly ash particles avu air alli suspend ಆಗ್ತವೆ, those in the flue gas, those fly ash comes out from the plant. ಆ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಇಂದ ಏನು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರ್ತವೆ and due to the coming out from the plant contribute to an increased suspended particulate matter, that we call it as a suspended particulate matter, SPM. we call it as a SPM ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ನಮಗೆ ಆ್ಯಶ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಕೋಲ್ನ ಬರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಟರ್ಬೈನಲ್ಲಿ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಯ್ಲರಲ್ಲಿ, that coal, that ash we call it as a fly ash. That fly ash coming out from the plant and suspension in the flue gases, and they are due to that coming out from the plant, they are contribute to the suspended particulate matter, that we call it as a SPM antivi. Here generally the particulates are also called particulate matters or suspended particulate matter. Why we are calling this suspended particulate matter means these particles are suspended in the atmosphere, means they are remain in the atmosphere, therefore they are called as a suspended particulate matter, and these are carried through air, that is therefore they are called as the airborne particulates. Now we will see what are the effect of these airborne particulates. So far we have studied what is the particulates, and why they are called airborne means they are carried through the air, but the particulates also we call it as a particulate matter or suspended particulate matter, SPM. Now we will see the effect of airborne particles to the atmosphere. The flue gases emitted from stack of coal-fired plants contain a substantial quantity of particulates. This we have already studied. The flue gases emitted from stack of coal-fired plants contain a substantial quantity of particulates which cause threat to human health. Those which are gases, flue gases emitted from the stack of the coal, those causes threat to human health. This is the one impact of airborne particulates. And the hazardous includes it also causes that is respiratory diseases and excessive death rate, and premature death, we call it as a premature death. And there is these airborne particulates will cause an impact on the respiratory diseases, will cause the include respiratory diseases and excessive death rate. In addition to these airborne particulates also causes reduce the visibility. The visibility in the surrounding area of the plant is reduced due to the emission of airborne particles from the stack of a power plant. Okay, these are the impact of airborne particulates to the atmosphere. Next, I will move on to cooling tower impacts. So far we have discussed that is stack emissions. What are the impact to the atmosphere due to the emission of substances through the stack of the power plant. Now we will see the cooling tower impacts. Okay, cooling tower impacts. Cooling tower is also the one of the that is used. Cooling tower in thermal power plants is used to cool the condensed water in the condenser. That water is again cooled in a cooling tower, and that water is again fed into the boiler again. That we call it as a cooling tower, which is used in the thermal power plants. That cooling tower also have some impact to the environment. That we will see one by one. First impact from the cooling tower is a drift deposits. When the surrounding air cannot absorb moisture, some droplets of circulating water get escaped from the tower. That we call it as a drift. The surrounding water cannot absorb moisture. Some droplets of circulating water get escaped from the tower. That we call it as a drift, which carry with them salts and chemicals. Okay, whatever the drift emissions from the cooling tower, that drift emissions carry salts and chemicals. That the drift carries the salts and chemicals. Due to the salts and chemicals in the drift, those drift on deposition on the vegetation can damage. Therefore, the drift will carry with them salts and chemicals. Means some salts and chemicals are also carried by the drift. Those drift, when deposit on the vegetation, can damage the vegetation. This is the impact of cooling towers. Drift ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಡ್ಯೂ ಟು ದಿ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ಸು ಆ ಡ್ರಿಫ್ಟು ಆ ವೆಜಿಟೇಷನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಟ್ ಆದರೆ ಅದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ vegetation may get damage. Here vegetation means plants. When the drift deposit on the plants, those plants can damage. That is the one impact of the drift deposit from the cooling tower emissions. Second one is and also the drift deposits also cause weathering and corrosion of metals. Due to the drift deposits also causes the weather and corrosion of the metals on deposition of the drift. Drift also causes the weathering and corrosion. Metal will get corroded due to the deposition of the drift. And also even due to the deposition of drift, that can also change the soil properties. This is the impact of drift which is emitted from the cooling tower after deposition. That is the drift deposits. Next, the impact of the cooling towers from the cooling towers is the fog. The cooling tower water, when added to atmosphere, may condense and form fog at ground level. Here, due to the emission from the cooling tower, that also causes formation of dense fog over a small area at the ground level. ಅಂತೆ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಟವರಿಂದ ಏನು ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಕಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾಗ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ fog will form over a small area, means at the ground level. At the ground level you can see the fog, okay, due to the cooling tower emission. That is the first impact of the cooling. Another cooling tower emission impact, that is fog, formation of dense fog over a small area, and also it decreasing the visibility in that area due to the formation of fog in the ground level. Ground level ಅಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಆ ಗ್ರೌಂಡಲ್ಲೇ ಫಾಗ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಯು ಸೀನ್ ದ ಫಾಗ್? ಫಾಗ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು, ಮಂಜು ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಮಂಜು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಡ್ಯೂ ಟು ದಟ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಾಗ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸಿಂಗ್ ದಿ visibility in that area. The visibility is also decreases in that area. That is also another impact of cooling tower emission. And also the cooling tower also causes the visible plumes. Also cooling towers may even produce visible plumes. Visible plumes are also produced from the cooling tower emissions. Okay, that is these are all some of the cloud that we can clarify. What is the plumes? A plume, we can say a plume is a long cloud of smoke or vapor, that we call it as a plume. Plume ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, a long cloud of smoke ಇಂದು ಏನು ನಮಗೆ ಆ ಕ್ಲೌಡ್ ಥರ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ವೇಪರ್, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಪ್ಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಅನ್ಬೋದು. ದಟ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಈಸ್ ವಿಸಿಬಲ್, ಅದು ನಮಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ವಿಸಿಬಲ್ plumes. They also produce, a cooling tower also produce visible plumes. These are all that is impact from cooling tower emissions. Next, here you can see some of the pictures, how the thermal power plants, emissions from the thermal power plants will affect the environment. Here you can see the impact on biosphere. That is the thermal power plants will cause a negative, that is cause an impact to the it may be water bodies, plant bodies, and also it will affect the human health also. And in this the cooling tower emissions, in this image you can see which is how the cooling towers are emitted. That is, we can call it as these are all called the plumes, or how the fog these are also called what are the they will cooling towers emissions, either it may be fog formation or visible plumes. These are called the cooling tower emissions from the cooling tower. Next, I will move on to some test questions, multiple choice questions. So far we have studied what is the environmental impact of thermal power plants on the both, that is plant life and the animal life. Now we will have some test assessment to know how much we have understand this topic. First question: which of the following power plant causes highest amount of air pollution? This you can easily say the highest amount of air pollution is from thermal power plants. Nuclear power plants, in nuclear power plants there is no such amount of air pollution. Hydroelectric power plants also no air pollution. Thermal power plants will contribute more air pollution. This is the major pollution from thermal power plants are the air pollution. Therefore, geothermal power plant is also wrong. Therefore, the correct answer is thermal power plants. Thermal power plants, highest amount of air pollution occurs. Second, which of the following pollutants emitted by thermal power plant is a cause of global warming? Global warming. First is the nitrous oxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide. So far we have studied the emissions from the stack of the thermal power plants are harmful. That is, those are maybe nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides. Among these, it causes a global warming. That is this is a pollutant. We call it as a nitrous oxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide are harmful pollutants. But carbon dioxide, we call it as a greenhouse gas, that is causes the global warming. High amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere causes the global warming. Global warming ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ main ಕಾರಣ, that is a carbon dioxide. Therefore, the answer is carbon dioxide. Which of the following gas is not emitted during combustion of coal? So far we have studied when the coal is burned in a boiler, combustion takes place and the various gases or substances are liberated. Which of the following gas is not emitted during the combustion of coal? Oxides of sulfur, this is emitted from the stack. Oxides of nitrogen, this is also emitted from the stack. Oxides of mercury, this is not emitted. Therefore, this is the correct answer. Oxides of mercury is not emitted during the combustion of coal. Oxides of carbon is also emitted. Therefore, the correct answer is oxides of mercury is not emitted. Next, we will see the fourth one. Which one of the following is not a pollutant? Which one of the following is not normally a pollutant? Carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrocarbons, sulfur dioxide. Which one of the following is not normally a pollutant? Carbon monoxide is a pollutant. Carbon dioxide, we cannot say it is a pollutant. Okay, carbon dioxide is not a pollutant because it is naturally occurring gas, that is naturally occurring. Therefore, carbon dioxide is not, we can't call it as a pollutant. But hydrocarbons is also a pollutant. Sulfur dioxide is also a pollutant. Therefore, the correct answer is carbon dioxide. It is not a pollutant. Normally it is generally we can't say it is a pollutant. Carbon dioxide. Fourth, that is carbon dioxide. Next question. Coal-fired power plants. Some electrostatic specifications are used to control emission of. In coal-fired plants, we have studied the various the substances or harmful substances are emitted from the stack. Those are the sulfur dioxide, SPM is suspended particulate matters, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen oxides. Among these, the coal-fired power plants electrostatic specifications are used to control emission. Here in thermal power plants, in order to control the emission of particulates that are also called particulate matters or suspended particulate matters, here we are using a device that we call it as a electrostatic precipitator, that is called a filtering device, that is used to filter the particulates. They are also called particulate matters or suspended particulate matters. Therefore, the answer is suspended. SPM means suspended particulate matters. Suspended particulate matters. In order to filter the suspended particulate matters in thermal power plants, we will use a filtering device that we call it as a electrostatic precipitator. Therefore, the correct answer is SPM. Sixth one, which one of the following pollutant causes acid rain? That we already studied. What is the main cause for the formation of acid rain? Option A, nitrogen oxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. Can you answer? The nitrogen dioxide is the main cause for the formation of acid rain, causes the acid rain. Therefore, the correct answer is nitrogen dioxide, NO2. Sorry, it is not a nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide. Sorry, it is not a nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is the pollutant which causes the acid rain. Therefore, the correct answer is sulfur dioxide, SO2. Sixth one, SO2, sulfur dioxide. Next, I will move on to the seventh question. Which of the following is mostly affected by thermal power plant pollutants? Mostly affected by thermal power plant pollutants, that is lithosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, exosphere. The answer is atmosphere, because the harmful substances which are emitted from the thermal power plants will affect the atmosphere. Therefore, the correct answer is option B, atmosphere. Eighth, in a steam power plant, cooling towers are used. Okay, cooling towers are used. Cooling condenser outlet water, cooling exhaust steam, cooling feed water, all of the above. Okay, in cooling, so far we have studied the cooling tower emissions. The cooling tower in thermal power plants are used to cool the condenser outlet water. Whatever the exhaust steam is condensed in a condenser, and that we call it as a water. That water gets heated, and in order to cool that water, these two cooling towers are used. Therefore, cooling condensed outlet water, whatever the outlet water coming from the condenser, in order to cool that water, cooling towers are used. Therefore, this option is correct. That is option A, cooling condenser outlet water. Second, we will see the cooling exhaust steam. This is wrong. This will not cool the steam. Cooling feed water is also not correct. All of the above is also not correct. Therefore, the correct answer is cooling condenser outlet water. Next, I will move on to some more questions. Which of the following equipment is installed in steam power plants to reduce air pollution? Again, we have studied this one. Which equipment is installed in steam power plant to reduce air pollution? That is air filters, air electrostatic precipitator, stock, none of the above. we have already discussed, in order to filter the that is particulate matters or particulates or suspended particulate matters, we are using that is electrostatic precipitator, air electrostatic precipitator. Therefore, the correct answer is air electrostatic precipitator is used to reduce air pollution. In order to control the air pollution in thermal power plants, we are using a device called air electrostatic precipitator. This is the right answer. Option B is air electrostatic precipitator. Option A, that is air filter, it is not wrong. This is wrong. Stock is also wrong. None of the above is also wrong. Therefore, the correct answer is air electrostatic precipitator. The last question, for minimizing pollution occurring because of gases discharged from the chimney height is, therefore in order to minimize the pollution occur from the because of the emission of gases, those gases are discharged through the chimney, that we call it as also called stack. The chimney height is whether it to be decreased, increased, not altered, none of the above. Therefore, the answer first one is decreased. We should not decrease the chimney height. Increased, second B1 increased. Therefore, the chimney height is to be increased in order to minimize the pollution occurring because of gases discharged from the chimney. Therefore, the chimney height is to be increased in order to minimize the pollution. Therefore, the correct option is option B, increased. Option B is increased. Okay. These are some of the multiple choice questions in this session. Next, these are the answers for multiple choice questions. And here is some references. You can go through these references, also e-resources. Thank you.